Imagine Josh and I are at a diner. I'm like, I've really been enjoying Canon's C300 Mark II. And then somebody walks up and they go, your shirt doesn't match your complexion. And then they walk away. That's how ridiculous the comments are. As soon as that person walked away, Josh and I would go, what the hell was that? And then we'd laugh for the next 5 minutes because that, just imagine how bizarre that would be. You're sitting in a restaurant, somebody comes up and they're like, you're too pale. You're just like, why are you talking? Who are you? I don't know. Why are you doing this?
How do you deal with haters?
Like in the comment section or?
Yeah, YouTube comment section. Like this is something that is, I never had to deal with haters. Like being a waiter at a restaurant, you know what I mean? But as a YouTuber...
Oh yeah, YouTube is totally different than real life for that.
You are under review all the time. And I remember when I first started the channel, I didn't have haters. Like, what's the point of watching a nobody's video and then hating on it? There's no point to it. I feel like the numbers...
That's a perfect point. As you get more successful, I think that you become more of a target because you get sort of shoved in other people's faces more, and then maybe somebody doesn't like you or somebody doesn't like what you're talking about. So then it's almost like they're reacting to, who is this guy?
Yeah, exactly. Or they think you're ungrateful, you're not worth, you know what I mean? Like you're overrated.
Yeah. Your audience usually comes up with you, and then they're always great. And if you can stick to, reading, if somehow there was a way to read only those comments, you'd be great. But you're always gonna get these landmines mixed in there. And I have some that I'm good with now. Like, you develop some strategies, and there's other ones where I feel like, there's no strategy.
What's the worst comment that someone has ever said to you? Do you remember?
There's probably somewhere with just 30 swear words and calling me all kinds of names, but those are the ones that don't bother me. And I don't think that there's any sort of specific worst individual comment, but there's a type of comment that bugs me. But if there's a strength or something that you take pride in, a strength of yours, and then somebody either doesn't see it or they don't appreciate it or they try to cut down on that or it seems like they completely missed the mark, I find those very frustrating. Or ones where it's almost like the person didn't really listen to anything you said and then decides to sort of rip into you.
What about the ones where you clearly gave the disclaimer?
Those are just annoying, I guess.
You dedicated like 5 hours just for that little topic, right? That took maybe 2 minutes of the video, but somebody glossed all the way over that.
Those are very frustrating. They're not hurtful, I guess, but they're just they're so frustrating. Or sometimes your video will have an intention, or you'll have an intention in your video, and you'll get, it's not usually, it might be 5 comments or 10 comments, but it's enough for you to think that it's everybody thinks this, and then you kind of go in your head where you're like, that wasn't the point. I try my best, and I think the viewers that know me know this, to be, fair and balanced and to provide full, open disclosures. And just basically, I just try to keep the content to be very, above board, ethical, if you will, as best that I can.
I do see that about you. I do appreciate that. I do think that's why you have as many followers as you do, is because it's kind of refreshing. You know what I mean?
I appreciate that.
There's no hidden agenda. It's just this is it, and if it,
That's a good way to put it. I try never to hide an agenda or something. And when somebody when somebody makes some sort of theory in the comments of my hidden agenda, it drives me nuts because not only am I not a big fan of conspiracy theories or and that stuff in general, but when it applies to me, it's more personal because I know myself. And then I also think it's I've got a catalog, and even just that very video, who else does the things that I do, in the beginning of the video or different stages, to have you just write a comment of guys just paid by big pharma to do whatever, you know what I mean? Exactly. Get out of here. And whenever
you're a shill for Sony, you're a shill for Sony.
That's the easy one. That's the easy one.
Panasonic pays you. You're
But that's the funny thing is, depending on which video, if it's a one-off, depending on which video the person watches, they would have only seen that, and so they're like, guys paid for by Canon,
Yeah. Meanwhile, the video that you did the week before was this Canon C300 Mark III is fucking phenomenal. It's the best camera
Which is why my regular fans are great. It's just those one-off comments. And the funny thing is that people give you advice, and this is the part that I suck at, and I'll admit it, is that people will say, well, ignore those people. They're idiots. They don't know anything. Listen to the regular people that watch you all the time, and they obviously trust you and everything. But I can't. I can't ignore that. That's the type of comment that I suck at, is that one. It's always like, who are you to question me? You know, that's like, and I don't know where the ego comes from, but I guess it's just because I try so hard with that one element. If you want to criticize me for something that I don't do well at, then fine, that's fair game.
Like, this is a full-time job for you. It's not something you're doing on the side. And so you're putting a lot of your work into these videos, and you're putting your heart into it, and you're doing it because you genuinely like to do it and you find passionate about it. And so what I like is that you choose to encompass all of it, the things that are good and bad. And so when you do come up with someone that's like, you know, one of the other brands, they're a Canon boy or a Sony boy or a Panasonic boy, whatever it is, and they don't agree with what you say, and then they just say, oh, well, Sony pays you. You're like, dude, you just undercut, like, how much time I spent on this for you for free. Like, for you to watch, to make informed decision for free.
You know why I think you're right? Is because when I'm sure you have this same sensation, when you post that video, you put all the work in it, you're like, embargo, it's going up, it's publish time, baby. And you put the video up, there's almost like this sort of, this serving it to the world feeling where you're like, here's what I have for you. And when like the first comment you see is like, you suck, that's terrible, you did this and that. It's kind of like, okay, I will retreat back to my cave. You know, it's just like, you've got nothing else to do at that point.
The whole posting thing actually takes me several hours. Like, after the video is finally done and uploaded, it's still like 3 hours worth of work.
Well, with the metadata and everything, yeah.
Like, it's so much work and anxiety that when it finally does go up or it's on the schedule, I don't even look at my phone. I just check out. I'm like, I don't, you know. And then normally, like, what I try to do is I'll log back in, and the first wave of comments, I'll try to respond back, and, you know, because those are the core. That's the core audience.
And I use that first wave as just making sure the video is right, as in like somebody would have commented right away. The audio, there's no audio.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if there's no catastrophic event, you know what I mean?
I'll give you a couple pieces of advice, and you tell me agree or disagree or what you think about it.
Okay.
So one piece of advice I hear all the time related to this would be, maybe after that point, you just ignore it. Move on to the next video. Don't, the rest of the comments, whatever.
There's virtue in that. I mean, I feel like that's older generation wisdom. That's the long-term play for like longevity. Train your brain to just ignore all the bad because there's nothing you can do to prevent it. It'll be there.
Or even don't even spend time on it. Yeah, like
just don't even let it enter your heart. You know what I mean?
There's an advantage to the method, which is, and I'm sure you can relate to this, which is that something with YouTube where if you're hot off of an upload, you can almost get right back into another video and you can keep that momentum going. There's a momentum. And certain post-video stuff can kill momentum. So I think there's definitely virtue in the idea of like, that video's up, that video is done, and we're on to the next one. And I don't got time to read those comments because I'm making the next video.
Right,
and it embraces the short nature of internet reactions.
Are you talking about the endorphin rush that you get when you upload a video?
Yeah, and the flow, the workflow. You know how like if you haven't shot a video in a while, sometimes it can be difficult. It's like, wait, how do I even shoot videos? How do I YouTube?
That's like every video I do is just
right
a
after you
struggle.
finish a video, I bet you know how to YouTube. You're probably like, I remember how to YouTube now. You could get right into another video. But if you worry too much about the performance and everything else, I think it can kill the momentum. So I think there's virtue in that. The con, though, that I find is that, don't you ever feel like you want to reward your regular viewers? You want to read their comments, you want to heart them, you want to reply to them, you want to do whatever. So it's like, I feel like you're ignoring that whole part of it.
There's also something hugely diagnostic about comments. You know, like even bad comments are very diagnostic. They can help you perfect your craft. Just compare audio from my first few videos and like, you know, the first 15 videos, the actual video of it looks great. But the audio, the levels, I'm peaking all over the place. You know, I'm not leveling, I'm not using compression.
Okay, that's fair.
And I used to get crucified in the comments on the audio levels.
Do you think there's a roll-off then, though, as you, after a certain point of maturity on your channel, then you stop tweaking based on comments?
I don't think that you're ever there. I think that this craft is always evolving and you're always picking up new things and trying new things out. So, you know, whether that be a new editor, or if that's, you know, trying new sound equipment or whatnot, like it's very diagnostic having that feedback. Because think about it, like the first wave of commenters, sure, they're probably 99 overwhelmingly positive, But if there is something wrong with the audio equipment or with the saturation levels or just something, or maybe even your performance, maybe people, maybe your uncle just died and you're like down in the dumps and someone's like, wow, I really feel like you're not really yourself today. Like that's a moment of reflection. You can use that as like, maybe I should take a break from YouTube for a little bit and figure out this thing. Maybe they're right.
You know what I think discounts that so much though, is that you also get those same types of comments that are completely just out of like just nonsensical. It's like on every single video, I'll get a comment that'll be like, whatever seems off in this video. And I'll think to myself, I know how I shoot my videos. And I'm like, well,
Right.
I absolutely shot the video on the same day in the same take. So what? Like it literally, it's not possible for it to have looked different from my previous video. But you'll get those comments where somebody like, sounds different. Did you get a new mic? It's like, no. Like, what do you, and then I'll go back and forth the two videos and I'll like, this guy's crazy. It looks, it's probably, he probably just switched from using his phone to using his laptop in the bathroom or something. You're like, it sounds different.
You do get the random things. And I also do think that like our minds, like we are always searching for something that we know is wrong inside. So if someone's like, Josh looks a little sad today, you know what I mean? Like, like if I'm legitimately feeling sad and trying to cover that up, I will find that comment and I'll be like, you're right, I am sad. You know what I mean? Like,
I so go the opposite direction of you. I see you in your comments and I see how you reply to comments and stuff like that. Even on this series, I've seen, and I think to myself, sometimes I'll be like, I wouldn't have replied to that one. I'll see you reply to one, and I think you do a nice job. And you're like, oh, thanks for the notes and stuff. And I'm like, I would have just ignored that comment completely.
How do you, Gerald, deal with these comments then? Like, what are some of the tips that you do?
Okay, so for the one type of comment, which is just like insults, they're not really hitting like the how you do your content. They're more of just saying something that they don't like about your face, that kind of comment.
You don't just shadow ban those?
So yeah, physical advice, you click the little button and you say, hi, user from channel. And that's
Bam,
solved
shadow
once
ban.
and for all.
They've been banished from the realm. They can no longer
And you can take
post.
pleasure. You can take pleasure in knowing that this person is still yelling at the clouds, thinking that every video you post now, they're probably going to be like, I still hate your face, but you're never going to see it. But my mental advice for that same type of comment, if you're still kind of hurt by those comments, or if those types of comments get to you, realize how absurd they are. And to do this, you could put yourself in a situation. I like to do the one where you're maybe out eating at a restaurant with a friend. So maybe I'll imagine Josh and I are at a diner. I'm like, I've really been enjoying Canon's C300 Mark II. And then somebody walks up and they go, your shirt doesn't match your complexion. And then they walk away. That's how ridiculous the comments are. As soon as that person walked away, Josh and I would go, what the hell was that? And then we'd laugh for the next 5 minutes because just imagine how bizarre that would be. You're sitting in a restaurant, somebody comes up and they're like, you're too pale. You're just like, why are you talking? Who are you? I don't know. Why are you doing this? So that's what I do. I think comments are that silly. They're that stupid.
For those ones, I always kind of, I don't know if you call it empathy or if you just call it creative imagination, but I try to put myself in that person's shoes and be like, what would lead me to say something like that just randomly to this guy? And then I just start, I'm like, you know what? He's probably an out of work DP. He probably got hit and laid off with COVID. He probably doesn't know my channel. He just logged in.
Why are you so empathetic? I need to learn from you on this.
Well, it just helps me. It just helps me get over it. Like I can totally relate to that. Like I've been that. I've been out of work. I've seen some ungrateful YouTuber and I've totally judged them from that. And I get it. So then it just helps me. And when that happens, I don't shadow ban them. Then I just let it go. But when I can't get over it, shadow ban. Somebody last week said that I'm a fake, that I'm and it did. That one did hurt because I think everyone, as a human, I think we're always striving for authenticity.
I guess that relates to what I said was the ones that bug me the most, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so if someone calls you a fake, and you're like, but wait a minute, everything I do is I disclose things. If I'm being, you know what I mean? You go through all these things. And so those ones tend to hurt a little bit more. But then I was like, well, maybe I've changed. Maybe since Orbit, you know, maybe I've been selling too hard. Like maybe there's a corrective thing there. Like maybe I should start shifting back a little bit more. You know what I mean?
What do you think of this attitude that you could apply to that?
Yeah.
This is a flawed statement. I realize there's a flaw in this, but I think there's something you can extract from it, which is don't take criticism from people you wouldn't take advice from. So if you don't know that person, you don't know what they do, you don't know if they're qualified, you don't know their work. That's often a common thing is people reply like, how about you show me your work then before you criticize my videos? You know, I don't ever reply like that. But the idea of like, why should you even listen to that person in the first place? Yeah.
Well, I think this is the crux. This will help everyone who's worried about getting disparaged online. The people that are succeeding in life, that are putting in the work and doing it right, that you would take advice from, they're not going to disparage you because they know how freaking hard it is. And they also know that their life is under scrutiny as well, and they don't want to put that out there. They appreciate when someone is working hard, and they'll tell them that. And so most of the time, like I bet you if I met The Rock, you know, I don't know him personally, but if I met him, I guarantee you he would be like the nicest guy. Like, you know what I mean?
I've heard that one before, and I think you're totally right. I've heard something with like a slight twist on it where it was like, you know, that whole idea of how you always, like if you're out in public and maybe you're self-conscious about something because you had something on your arm and you think everybody's looking at it, what you don't realize is that everybody else is thinking about the thing that they have on their arm, their metaphorical thing on their arm, and nobody's thinking about you or thinking of themselves. Successful people or people who you might look up to or people who aspire to, you know, or really achieve great things in their field, they're busy doing that. They're not busy out hating on whatever you're doing because they ain't got time for that, you know?
Right. But also they've been there. Like they've started a YouTube channel before. They've gone down the path. They've started a business. They know how hard it is. You know what I mean? It's often the people that haven't walked in those shoes, that don't really have a position of experience, that are just shouting all this noise and just nonsense, and they're trying to be hurtful. Or maybe they're not. Maybe they just had a bad day. But it's normally that they don't have that grounded experience that they even know what they're talking about.